Music. 120, Drake. Welcome back, Wash Up Walkons fans, episode 120 of the podcast. And today we're back with another unique perspective of the program. We got a guy who has seen the inner workings of the program through a lens that even we haven't. Hanging out behind the scenes a lot of times, helping us get work done that we couldn't do without him. A guy that spent a lot of time with me when I was in my most keyed up state. So I'm sure he's got some pretty good stories of a wild Drake Kulik in his natural habitat. So without any further ado, welcome Colin Fisher to the podcast. A good friend and a great manager, man. Welcome.
Thanks for the intro. Very nice.
He mentioned Colin. First of all, thanks for coming on. This is going to be good. I was thinking about it. The interesting perspective that Colin you're about to provide. You actually, an Iowa football manager is a more elite position than being on the Iowa football team in a sense. There's only what, 8 of you guys?
I think 11.
11?
I think there were 11.
They have a lot of power because the managers get the scripts. And so the
They get the
managers
scripts.
are the friends of a lot of players.
Everybody.
All the players come hanging up on the shoulder. Let me see that script.
Oh, man. Colin, how many times am I standing on the sideline and did I come up to you and say, hey, let me get the script? How much
Couldn't
you
even
got left?
count.
Oh,
Couldn't
my
even
God.
count.
I used to go to you. I used to go to you or Cherry, and I would basically just at times I would just take the script out of their pocket because my ass was done with practice, and I'm wondering when we get to go eat.
Yeah, I learned after a while to basically just fold the script and put it in my waistband so that it was sticking out because people would just come up and take a quick peek, put it back. It was a good system.
Is that a feeling of power when you know exactly how much time you have left in practice? Because we never followed him anyway. We always went off script.
That's what I was going to say is, it was a good guideline, but it was kind of anything could happen.
Right. That's unfortunate. It was super unfortunate sometimes.
Hey,
Yeah.
you brought up Cherry, and for a lot of years, I don't know how long we were with Cherry, but for a lot of those years, I thought y'all were trolling him, calling him Cherry just because his hair was red. And then I found out that this dude's last name was Cherry and he had red hair, and I was like, wow, that's incredible.
Isn't that
Yeah,
wild?
it really set us up good.
Now, Colin, did you and Cherry start at the same time?
Yeah, so I came in, I guess, 2015 season through 2017 were my years.
So decent time to start, huh?
Yes, yeah, good.
With the
good
running
time
backs.
to start there.
Yeah, he's got it. He's got it behind him. For those listening, for those watching, you can see the 12-0 perfect poster. I've got that down in the man cave as well. And you were
2015 to 2017 running backs manager.
That's right.
So you got, like Drake said, you got to see a lot of Drake.
Of course, the hardest working group.
The hardest working group. Wow. Okay, he puts it out there. God, there's so many places. I don't want to fuck this episode up because there's a lot we could talk about because essentially as a manager, there's this alternate life that every aspect that the players are living, the managers are on the same schedule, or sometimes during practice, obviously, like you guys aren't running around hitting people, but it is still an exhausting schedule that you guys run. Talk about the time requirement and kind of God, there's so many different parts of the year that I want to get through. Let's just say this. Camp starts in August, and I think camp is a hectic time for everybody. Not only do you guys have to set up practice,
and a bunch of other things, but you guys are running the players around in vans. You guys drive the vans. So let's start at camp and kind of describe what camp is like for a manager.
Sure. So as you guys know, you guys are over at the hotel for camp. So your only lifeline, in a sense, is us to the complex. So
yeah, y'all are the most important Ubers in the whole state of Iowa by a really wide margin.
Yeah, those are some fun times. So basically, in the morning, you wake up pretty early. You know, I'm trying to remember these guys. The guys will kill me if I'm wrong on any of these details, but probably you wake up around maybe 4 o'clock, get in the shuttle. The sun's not even up yet. We're driving over to the Marriott, pick you guys up.
You're picking up a bunch of zombies on the first trip, dude.
Yeah.
Like in the morning shift.
Medical van.
Med van.
Dude, medical van. So for those listening, so camp, Colin's got the time about right. So that first van is probably, it's probably like 4:45, I think, during camp, because first special teams meeting is generally 6:30, which means most guys are getting over to the complex about 6 o'clock, which means you're getting on the van about 5:45 or 5:30, depending on how early you like to get over there. And the med van's usually 45 minutes to an hour before that. So the reason there's a med van is the guys who are hurt and they have to go get treatment or, other stuff medically before all the shit starts. So that med van's early, man. Did you guys rotate on that?
Yeah, there was a rotation. I'm trying to remember. I think the med van may have been.
When I had to get in the med van, there was a trainer that drove.
I was going to say, I think the med van was a trainer.
Okay.
But
that makes sense.
But yeah, so keeping going on that, basically you got the shuttle in the morning, get everybody over. And then there's kind of a window, like when you guys are in those meetings that we have to basically get practice set up, which usually means any hitting pad, basically any equipment required for practice, footballs, pads, the fake sticks that we would hold, anything you could think of. That's kind of the window we've got to set it up. During that time too, you'd have one manager who's kind of facilitating the meal that the quick meal you've got in the morning before meetings. And then the rest of us are usually getting ready for practice.
You guys, because at one point they had a manager sit at the meals and check people off.
Oh yeah. Every meal, whether it's breakfast, a breakfast type, lunch or dinner. There's always a manager who's got to, basically we have a list of the roster and a name and then a little spot for a check. And then that was kind of our rodeo there, was making sure that everyone got checked off.
And the reason for that is because guys don't like to eat food. And so plenty of guys would walk in. Now this is kind of like a dirty little science. It's like, who's in with the managers here? Because I know that every single manager at some point has been asked by one of the guys, like, hey, will you check this person off? Will you check this person off? Like, hey, check me off quick. And you guys know that they're not eating, or what was the lenience that you gave in your personal? Was it kind of like, Drake, the running backs, they come over like, hey, check me off. You'll check them. But if somebody else comes over, you're like, no, not really.
I think kind of just like anything in life, if there's guys who are usually on it and maybe they're not in, you kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. There are probably some who are maybe less on it. A good rule of thumb too was like, let's say Drake would come in and grab like 2 sandwiches and be like, hey, I'm getting this one for someone else. I'd be like, okay, like I believe that. And maybe Coach Doyle will kill me for that one. But that was kind of like that was the best bet, is if somebody grabbed a little extra something, you could at least think they were giving it to someone else.
Coach is on his way to your house right now.
What was your favorite part of being a manager? Like, besides game day, because obviously game day is the answer, but like, of all the little detail things that you guys had to do, and you guys had to get it all perfect all the time, because we have some of the most anal coaches that have ever lived, and rightfully so. I mean, they run a tight ship. What was your favorite part?
I think, Tyler, you kind of touched on it. I think it was really just this cool perspective we had as managers, because, we're the same age as you guys. We're students. we're showing up at the same time for practices. We have classes all day, but also, you know, we're employees of the team. So we have a really neat relationship, I think, with the coaching staff and equipment staff, video, help, you know, everyone involved. So I think kind of the coolest part was just, you know, I think it's really a testament to Iowa as a program that you guys were all such good guys. And I never felt like an outcast, you know, I felt like your friends. So I think that was just,
that's because you were.
Well, thanks. So it was just such a neat, we as managers, we keep in touch all the time, and we talk about how much fun it was and how it truly couldn't really be replicated again, because we're not students anymore, and it's just kind of different time. And sorry, that was maybe a little long-winded, but I think the best part was definitely kind of just having that neat perspective and being involved in the culture, especially at Iowa.
It sounds like essentially the same thing as us, Drake. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say we miss it too. We feel
like
the exact same way. This shit can't be replicated.
It's just like, man, you guys. I mean, you talk about it, like, and you guys. I feel like you said, like, we generally had good guys on our team, and I really did feel like y'all were like part of the squad. Like, obviously, we kind of had opposite schedules, but if you were able to, like, I would have hung out with you guys in the locker room, and we did at times, or a lot of times it was like hanging out in the lounge, like playing pool or something like that. Like it was cool. Very cool. You guys would run long ass schedules, and the time required is just insane. I'm wondering a little bit about the process of becoming a manager. I know that there was occasionally, you know, like some family stuff, like brothers would get, there's like a family pipeline. Brother would get in. Like you said, there's only 11 spots, and if I'm not mistaken, you kind of have to like apply to do it.
That's got to be a battle. Kids got to want to be Iowa.
Like how many people want to, right? Like how many, there's got to be like at least 40, 50 people a year trying to apply to be a manager, right?
Yeah, I think there's probably more than I know, but at some point, you know, whether resumes have been reviewed or whatnot, it kind of gets narrowed down to like a short list. I can speak from my experience because I didn't really have much of a connection to the program. I actually grew up in Illinois. I went to a high school we actually had a decent connection with Iowa because we had sent a few pretty good guys there. Tony Moyaki and Dace Richardson were two guys who came from my high school. So my head coach had at least some type of connection there. Long story short, it was not long into my football career that I realized I probably couldn't play D1, but I love the game. And so this was something my head coach had suggested to me. So long story short, he basically connected me to Paul through Coach Ferentz, and I got to apply. And the way it may be different now, but kind of the way it worked when I was there was if you kind of got shortlisted, like I said, you got to come in and basically in the spring semester before whatever the next fall would have been, you basically did the job. So, you know, we'd have 3 or 4 applicants, I guess you could call them, a day that would come in, and basically, you know, you'd be out there at practice. Usually the existing managers would kind of throw you in the fire in a sense to see how you do in like the fast pace and with the coaches. And
because it ain't slow.
No. So basically you do a few practices, you know, a few weeks worth, and it kind of gets narrowed down to a few guys, and then eventually they just pick that way. They decided it was kind of better than the formal interview in a sense, because I think guys can nail interviews, but when it really comes down to busting your ass on the field, for lack of a better word, you know, that kind of can't be faked. So you can really weed out people who aren't maybe cut out for it. And some people decide too during that process that it's not for them. That's happening.
I would imagine so. Because
the lifestyle y'all had to live is not like the cushy college lifestyle. You guys got some cool perks of being on the sidelines and traveling with the team and everything. Like, it was probably way worth it. But you didn't get to do college like the college Joe. You sometimes got to go out, but you'd have to show up hungover and shit. So you still had the same issues.
It's all the same, dude.
It's all the same issues. And a lot of times you had to get up earlier than we did.
Yeah. The time commitment was mind blowing to me. The specialists got to witness it a lot. I talk about it on the podcast all the time. As a kicker, punter, long snapper, you realistically are doing something. You're hitting a ball or you're snapping a ball, which, by the way, Drake got the ball out, got the old pelota out, the old pigskin, and shot a few snaps back the other day. Let me tell you this. Put 40 pounds on me, and I snap in the NFL right now. No fucking practice. I'll go snap right now.
I'm
anyway,
trying to think what I could do right now, and the list doesn't include perform in the NFL.
You could probably run one really like you could cut somebody down on the edge probably one time.
Oh fuck! You give me Vontez Burfict one time, I'll get it done one time. But you will come get me on the gator just like they did when I snapped my shit.
Yeah, man, the time commitment is just crazy. I'm thinking about like in camp, like you guys would be in charge of snack. A lot of the times, like, did you guys have to go and pick that up?
I was never a part of that. I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, there were a few guys who would go over and get the snack during camp. But yeah, definitely in a van. They would take a van over.
I mean, so essentially the way you.
So we had a setup that is every parent's worst nightmare. We've got a big white van with a bunch of good food and snacks in the back.
Yep.
And kids just fucking running wild to the van, trying to get their snacks and their Doritos. Yeah. And stranger danger, man.
I remember the good old days. 2015 probably still had this where, man, I forgot what year we stopped getting like the personal pizza. We would get a pizza to ourselves for snack.
We definitely had that in 15.
Okay.
Once
that was
or
it.
twice per camp.
Yeah. And then also that same year, this was every year, we would all get DQ blizzards. But this is the fattest I've ever been. Your boy was sneaking blizzards, baby. I was having 2 blizzards every camp when that would roll around. I would find a way.
Here's a funny story. It was maybe that 2015 or 2016 camp. And it was after our last day, and we had that night practice. And of course I had all the caffeine and the smelling salts in my fucking system, whatever. So I couldn't sleep. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I just ordered a Domino's pizza to the Marriott, and I sat out in the hallway. It was probably 3:30. I was out in the hallway eating my Domino's pizza, just celebrating the end of camp.
God, that's insane.
That night practice, not to interrupt you, Tyler, but that night practice, that end of camp, I feel like every year the Iowa gods open up the most beautiful sunset there is. At that end of camp night practice.
And that end of camp night practice is probably the most fun practice.
Yep. It's legit. It's legit.
Because it's the end. You know that you got a day off. You know you're moving out of the hotel. And, like, it's a competition. And that's a fun day of practice.
There's a currency that runs around the Iowa football facility /field. And it's called juice. And the juice is high during that last practice of camp. Oh man, they like to do the last practice at night. They kind of simulate that night game atmosphere, kind of how it's going to feel. And man, it gets electric. Everybody comes out pretty high energy. It's the end of camp. So like it's it's the last reps. And
it's one of those camp practices where, as a fan, it's just one of those practices in general. Like, you guys get to come in and see Kids Day and stuff and some scrimmages. Like, those are cool. You guys get to see kind of a game, session. But to be honest, I think those end of camp practices at night where nobody's around and anything goes, anything can be said. Like, I think those would be even better to watch.
Yeah.
To be a fly on the wall.
It's such a great practice too, because I think like everyone is probably the grind, it's been such a grind for weeks and weeks. And it's like, you kind of camp is really, it felt like to me at least, kind of this world you're in, everything around it, outside of it kind of just stops for a little bit.
Did y'all get camp goggles?
Is that a term?
Yeah.
That's a player term.
Did y'all get to like go outside and see humanity during camp?
We could. It was
They
just
do.
like you just wouldn't have time.
Okay. See, I didn't. So like you never got to see any girls, or you did?
No, not really. I mean,
So did you get you were seeing girls walking out of Walgreens on your drive from the Marriott, and you're like, damn, honestly, probably would.
Wow. Drake, only you. Colin, didn't know you were a cat guy. Who's your friend behind you?
that is Smokey. I think the cat versus dog thing, I like both. I think a dog would be great if I had more time to like come out and take him out during the day, but being at work, it's a good alternative.
Big time kitty guy myself. Big time kitty guy.
My girlfriend has definitely opened my eyes to how cool. You got to get a cool cat though, because there's a lot of jerk.
Oh, you like your girlfriend's cat, huh? I didn't know that's where this podcast is headed.
I'm sure you could clip that part out.
Oh, we can clip it. Anyway, are you in? So I pulled up your LinkedIn for this one. Are you in Nashville right now?
Yep. Yeah, I live in Nashville since I graduated.
Hell yeah.
So you're some kind of smart person doing a real job, right?
I am an engineer. I work for an architecture and engineering firm.
Son of a bitch.
But I was actually talking to, you remember Schneebs? I was talking to him just last Sunday. We talked on the phone probably 2 hours. And for those of you who don't know, he's actually assistant DFO over at Memphis.
Really?
So he just got that job. We're all really excited for him. But
holy shit.
Something we were talking about was just like, he's in it. He's still in football. He's still, around the game. And I tell him all the time, like, part of me, there was definitely kind of this pinnacle moment in my life where it was like, do I really go all in and try and do the football thing? Or do I kind of stick with my degree and go engineering? And I think all the time I'm thinking about football. And I think if the right opportunity came up, I would just totally go all in for it if I could.
You should, dude. If that's what you want to do and an opportunity arises, take it, because you're smart as shit. You already you got experience in the engineering world. Like, it's on your resume. You can go do shit. You're young and, like, might as well take the shot.
Yeah.
Because what are you, 23?
Yeah. I had to think for a second. Yeah, I'm 23.
Yeah. I'm 25 and I hopefully got a whole lot of life ahead of me. So, like, you got even more.
So the DFO, that's Director of Football Operations.
Is that like Feds? So
that would be
Fed, assistant, right? Fed.
So he's basically Ben. Think of him as Ben.
Okay, so
for Memphis.
So for those listening,
that's a big gig.
Yeah, that's a huge gig. That's fucking incredible. Like that makes me hype for Schneebs. So, okay, so for those listening, we'll break this down. So because often, if you follow on Twitter, Ben Hansen is semi-active on Twitter. He is a DFO, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So Assistant Director of Football Operations. He basically 50-50s it with Fed. I don't know the exact responsibilities between the two, but I imagine, and it kind of seen that they just kind of split things two ways. So Paul Federici, he's been there forever. Loves to tell the same shit over and over again when you get off the bus. The cards are on the fucking desk and your meeting rooms are on floor 2. He says it every time you get to a hotel and he never changes it up, and it's the same shit over and over again. Him and Ben Hansen are the two directors of football operations. And so that's a big time gig. That's a legit gig.
For a young dude, that's a big gig.
Schneebs was, and for those wondering who we're talking about, Schneebs was 1 year ahead of you.
2 or 3. He was
there forever.
For a long time, yeah.
Yeah, and so he really knew what the fuck he was doing. I felt like, was he like the dad of your group?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys have, from your squad, have had a couple people go on and kind of continue this. Brock Bauer is with the Kansas City Chiefs right now, correct?
Yeah, he's got a Super Bowl ring in his first year as
he might as well quit.
Definitely we've had a lot of successful guys in football and beyond, but I think it's something that you guys see it too. Like, I'm sure people listen to this podcast and they hear a lot of the same themes come up, but it's so true. Iowa just breeds a different human, and anyone who's in the building gets that culture, even us guys who are unathletic guys who just want to be around football some more. It's like, it's just like
Hey,
the
dude,
building.
I was literally an unathletic guy that wanted to be around football.
Hey,
I just lost more brain cells in the process.
Those looking at this podcast, watching it on YouTube, are just watching 2 out of 3 of these guys. 2 out of 3 of us are managers. 1 just happened to be able to do long snapping. I was a manager. That's what I am, Colin. We're the same guy. All right. Speaking of athleticism, y'all put on
toolbox game. We gotta fucking talk about the toolbox game. I gotta hear about this.
One time a year, y'all put on for the city, man. And this is one of the most important, probably interesting things that you guys do. If I'm not mistaken, they used to have a couple games a year.
I think there was a Nebraska game at least once. I don't know how many times they did that one.
So, and more injuries happen in this game than real games.
Who got their eye busted? Somebody got their shit absolutely busted like a street fight.
That was 2014. So that was the year before I got there. But there are pictures, at least there were, in the manager locker room of just the goriness of that game. Like,
dude,
up on the walls.
Showed up, whoever it was, man. I want to say it was like Brock or somebody. But they showed up to the game the next day with it looked like they went to war, dude. Their eye was just like, buttoned up, stitches everywhere.
ACL tears.
I was just going to say, how many ACL tears in the training leading up to the game happened? Like, I remember that blonde manager, lanky, skinny guy when we first came in the first 1 or 2 seasons. He tore his ACL in prep for the thing in the week of practice.
They're trying to bust their ass, but they forgot that they're not still that high school kid that played a little bit.
So so let's hear about kind of the lead up to the toolbox. Obviously, this game is played between the managers between Iowa and Wisconsin, and it's quite potentially it's 100% a bigger trophy game than some of the rivalries in the Big Ten.
Bigger trophy game than us versus Nebraska because they suck.
Yeah, way bigger than us versus Nebraska actually on the football field. So what did this, what was the kind of the culture of this game? When did you guys start practicing in the lead up to it, and talk about like your time playing in it?
So the culture was kind of like, this was really one of our only opportunities to kind of figuratively don the pads and like play football again. So it was definitely a big deal for us. It was also something that, so for those listening, unfortunately during my tenure, we actually did not win. There was a negative streak there for a little while against Wisconsin.
Wisconsin
we didn't win bowl games for a while either.
Yeah, Wisconsin on the field and on the toolbox field had our number for a while.
So I think every year was a little different. I can remember 2015, Wisconsin was our Big Ten opener. So I remember even in camp, we were already, in summer camp, we were already practicing as much as we could kind of physically handle, some years we had a more simplified playbook type deal. Some years we had a little more complicated. We kind of tried everything that we could do. There was definitely, I think there were some years before my time when, there would be more or less graduate assistants playing in the game. There was kind of like this, I think we had a really good streak for a while and Wisconsin got sick of it. And
there's this hidden, like, kind of unwritten rule of like who plays in the game. And it's kind of like this bullshit, like who can slide by as a manager deal, because we were using Tyler Anderson for a while. And he was a grad assistant, and
Tyler Anderson can fly,
dude. And it's like, who isn't a player in the program but still is in the program that will play in the game? Because then Wisconsin started using like some GAs that literally played Division I football, I think was the story, and it got like out of hand to where it's like. So talk about it.
Yeah, I think the one you're talking about was maybe 2012. There was like a Northern Illinois running back who played in the game. It was just like ridiculous. But
wow.
No disrespect to Wisconsin, right? I mean,
all
I get
the
it.
Disrespect to them. Fuck them so hard.
hard. Hard.
It was definitely like, it got more, I think more and more intense over time. And for us, it was like we wanted more than anything. I remember 2015 specifically, we were going into Camp Randall. You know, it was like kind of the proving grounds in a sense for our season. And I remember so badly, I wanted to have that toolbox sitting in the doorway of the locker room when you guys showed up the next morning. That was really the biggest thing for us, was like, we wanted to take care of business on our end and kind of like, in a way, maybe hype you guys up before the game as much as
the night before when we were going into offense defense meeting, then to snack, I was like always asking people, hey, y'all heard anything about Toolbox? What's the news on Toolbox?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, we cared just as much as you hoped we cared. I promise. Like,
yeah. And you guys remember that hotel that we would stay at Wisconsin? It was like a cathedral in a way. Like,
yeah,
we just wanted to bring that thing home. And like, anyways, basically, like you were talking about, we kind of practice beforehand, and then we kind of get situated as far as like who is playing, what position, and definitely, get on the bus before the game, and like if it was an away game, we would shuttle over to their complex, and a lot of people would show up. It was a lot. There would be referees. It was recorded. We would pass game tape onto each other after every year. It was I guess it was the whole.
It's as close to a fucking real game as it can get.
It was a big deal around the complex.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Definitely shared some of that intensity as far as like a real game for us, because there. Like so it was a flag game for those who don't know. So there was no pads. It was flag football, basically an 8-on-8 type situation. So there were 3 linemen who would block on offense. And it was, like if somebody would try and pull a flag and like maybe shove a guy to the ground, it would definitely get heated on both sides of the ball. Like,
I was just about to ask about the fights, dude, because if fights didn't break out, I would be a little bit disappointed.
I'm trying to remember if there was, I can definitely remember some moments of just like, guys taking cheap shots or whatever. Like if they couldn't pull the flag, they would just try and like push you to the ground. I can definitely remember like some kind of up in each other's face type situations, but I don't remember any specific like.
Because like if somebody took a cheap shot on my homie in the Toolbox game, like at the end of the day, I'm going to the mat. Like,
it's over.
It's chops.
We definitely looked out for each other for sure.
Yeah. Like in Kinnick, you're risking your eligibility.
Yeah.
Like you may never play another game if you do that. But like in the Toolbox game, let's throw.
Take the cleat off, start slicing people up.
It was cool, man. We got to put on the practice jerseys. It was really kind of the dream as like an Iowa kid,
Yeah, that's awesome. God, so heated, and it was such a big thing every year. It was like legit, like inside the program. It's just another like the staff all got into it. Like you said, everybody came. It was super intense.
I do want to give a quick shout out to the manager group. Last year, they did bring it home.
They took it home.
They brought it home. Finally got me off the roster, so they were able to secure the bag, if you will. But I actually got to see it. I came home for a game this year, and it was up displayed in the manager locker room. That was a pretty cool thing to see, definitely.
Dude, I have like goosebumps talking about it because it takes me right back to it. It's like. It's so sick. I just imagine you guys like feeling that you feel like we talked about. You feel, I mean, you are a part of the team, and so it's like it's your one game to go out. Doyle always used to say like we only get 12 opportunities. You guys only got one opportunity. You go out, it's like that's it.
I forgot to. I want to mention for any of you guys who maybe are interested in watching some unathletic kids play flag football. BTN came in 2016, and they actually did like a mini journey segment on the game when it was at Iowa, and that's pretty cool. That was super cool for us. A couple of the managers actually got to be interviewed and show their face. So that was pretty cool for those guys.
That's
definitely.
huge. Oh, yeah. That's huge. As we keep going, I know you wrote a couple of things down. Anything you want to mention as far as managers goes, some of your favorite stuff, like any big points that you want to let the people know. Otherwise, I got a couple more questions before we let you have your Sunday to yourself.
I guess I just have a bunch of little kind of funny stories or like.
Go for it.
If people have any, I'll just start with one. So something I was involved in with Schneebs actually was getting the headsets walked out before the games. So basically every coach has their own headset and configuration, everything. So we would basically get out there, 3-4 hours before the game and walk them across the field and make sure they were connecting to the box and everything. A funny story about this was actually in 2016, we went to Penn State.
I wish that plane would have
malfunctioned. Hey, fucking Colin, were the headsets off that game? Because we didn't fucking.
Did you guys shoot the signal to their fucking headsets?
Holy shit!
So it's funny story. In the moment, I was pretty fired up, upset about this, but it's definitely funny to think about it now. So a few of our managers got up in the press box and put some headsets on. And something we listened to, obviously, something you would never want to hear would be the other team's frequencies or something. Right. And that never happens. In the 3 years I was there, I never experienced that or anything like that. But so two managers put on a headset and they talked in a really low voice as Penn State coaches. And so I'm walking the headset out, and little do I know that these guys have told everyone but me that this is a joke. So I'm like, guys, do you hear that? I feel like I'm hearing the other team talking. And I was getting really into it. There was spots on the field they would wait for me to get to, and then they would start talking, and I'd be like, guys, it's right here. I could. And then finally they told me that it was them. I was so God, I was so angry about it at the time, but it is pretty funny to think about.
That's a funny troll job.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
What was your favorite part of game day? What got you the most juice?
So that's a great question. I would say there's kind of two parts to this. Thursdays, there would be no practice, and we would get to go over to the stadium if it was a home game.
I wanted to mention that day as well.
And we would get to set up the game day locker room. So everything that was, I'm sure you guys know this, but everything in your locker, helmet, jersey, cleats, anything you guys put in your bag to come over to the stadium was something that we got to sit out for you guys. And that is chills just now thinking about it. Every Thursday home game, or every Thursday before a home game, we got to go over there, set up the locker room, and that was just one of the coolest experiences, kind of preparing for game day, definitely, that we got to be a part of.
How about setting up that new locker room, dude? When
the
locker room got renovated, that place was a vibe.
It was so much fun. And kind of on a game day, I think one of the coolest things we got to do, or maybe my favorite memories or feelings on game day, was kind of the 90 minutes before the game is fans are starting to pour in.
Once the clock starts,
the sound system's going. As soon as I saw the specialists come out of the locker room, you guys run out. I'm seeing the Tiger Hawk on the helmet.
Can't see him, but I'm fucking goosed up right now.
Yeah, that I can't explain to you guys that feeling of go time. And for us, go time was making sure you guys had footballs, getting the jugs in the right spot, catching your field goals.
How fun was the warm ups though, dude? Because we were all so hyped. The music was going. Oh man.
Just catching punts in a Big Ten stadium, and we're dropping half of them, but just the whole thing, kind of just that 90-minute hype, getting you guys ready to go, trying to make sure you're you got everything you need. It's just kind of this you're so happy to be a part of it. And I'm sure you guys felt this too as players too, you're happy to be a part of it too. For us, we're just we're just on the inside, we're maybe a seat away from being on the outside looking in. So we kind of know our spot. And it was just man, I can't express, I know people go to the games, they see the swarm, they know what it's like, but there's just something about seeing you guys come out of the tunnel at
Where were y'all for the swarm? Were you on the sideline?
Yeah, so at that point, the coaches would come out a little bit before you guys, and our big responsibility was making sure they got their headsets and maybe clipping it to the back of their polo or something. But we were always there watching the swarm, and it we'd always line up kind of together like you guys do for the national anthem. And man, you don't lose your fandom when you're in the program. You're as much an Iowa fan as anybody else. And I think for us, that was just a real deal. The game day experience was just you can't get anything like it. There's nowhere I'd rather be on a Saturday at any time in my life, period.
Yeah, I'm 1,000%, dude. I'll go to the grave saying that's the number one spot.
This podcast is about you and the managers and not about me, because we've had 119 other episodes to talk about that. But listening to you describe go time from the other side of seeing me run out of the tunnel, dude, I want to fucking rip this cord in half and just punch a hole through the wall, because there is no better feeling, man. When, especially as an older guy, when it's your fucking group, man. Like when it was, I sat through Casey Kreider. He was the guy, and as a specialist, you know, we're not as important as Nate Stanley. We're not as important as Josie Jewell. But for a single moment, we are the first players to run out of the tunnel fully dressed in the game uni, and it gets all those drunk fuckers in the student section riled up when they see the first guys in uniform for the day, and any of the fans who are in the stadium. And if it's a big time game, more people are in the stands already at that time. So as you come down that tunnel, and it's just 5 or 6 specialists, and oh my God, it's just the first one to hit the field, and you don't to the last game. I swear to God, I played 53 games in a row and sat for 13 the season before that, 66 games. And there wasn't a single goddamn time that the specialists ran out of the tunnel, and it was just 4 or 5 guys. And everybody stands up and starts cheering and clapping. I felt like my dick was 14 feet long. I have never felt more important in my life. And that's why when we talk about it right now and you describe it from the manager standpoint, it just gets me going, man. Like, oh God, I want to just fucking rip this.
It was the best.
Give me your Mount Rushmore of favorite environments that you ever were in when as a manager, and then your Mount Rushmore of players that you were around, just like favorite in general.
For sure. So some of the best environments, I think Wisconsin is just a great place to play. I think they in a lot of ways resemble us as a team, you know, and just like a really just an electric stadium to be in. I think when we went in there in 15 and won that 10-6 game, you know, that was just like, there were a few that kind of come close to that type of environment. And Iowa fans travel so well too. Sorry, what'd you say?
Jump around causes an earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
You're worried that the stadium will come down when they start jumping.
Yeah. And also for reference, in my time, I never got to go to Michigan, Ohio State, or Maryland. So I got to see almost all the stadiums, which was really cool. I think Penn State's up there as a cool environment. That was definitely a crummy one for us as a team. But
before the game, it was cool though.
Oh yeah, and it was fall too. So kind of when we were flying in, you had those like beautiful colors of the trees.
It was gorgeous up there.
Yeah, that was a cool spot.
Dude, the whole time leading up to that Penn State game, that is easily in the top 3 most hyped that I was. The trip there, the whole night before, going to the movie, everything. Coach Woods made me watch the Pat Tillman documentary on his iPad before just because he's like, I want you to watch this. And that was like when we walked in and they had those dudes with the white masks on. And by the time we came out to warm up, that place had 70,000 people in it.
Oh, dude.
Dude,
talk about when the specialists walked out for that one. We hadn't been shit talked like that in a while. Like there was a lot of people in that stadium.
There was a lot.
Happy Valley. It's a night game. It's a whiteout. And all I'm thinking in my head is all I can see is Adrian Claiborne in 2009 blocking a punt and housing that bitch. And I'm standing there, bro. I'm fucking from Marshalltown, Iowa. I'm standing here. I'm almost diabetic and 5'10", and I'm standing here, okay? And oh fuck, it was just like, what is going on? Why am I here, right? Like it's one of those. A lot of the situations, and you probably too, Colin, in a lot of these situations, it was always like, how did I get to be a part of it?
Every day.
Man.
That was a cool stadium. Again, it's a melancholy memory, but the Rose Bowl, just like what an iconic deal to be a part of for us. and that the stealth bomber flyover, I still have dreams about that moment. That's definitely like a really cool spot. But, and this is cliche, and I'm sure you guys hear this all the time, the best stadium I've ever been in is Kinnick Stadium, period.
Oh man, it's on our Mount Rushmore too.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Mount Rushmore players, and then maybe to wrap up Mount Rushmore, I'd like to talk about some of my favorite games.
Oh hell yeah!
Time. But
go for it.
Kinnick Stadium, just the best.
So one thing on Twitter, they just had a poll just this weekend about who had the best stadium, and it was us versus Texas A&M, and I think we're winning. So like
we won, and it's us versus Oklahoma for the championship.
Oh, there we go. Like that's some pretty high praise.
I mean,
it's a great place.
It's some random Twitter account, but still.
Yeah.
It's really like holy ground when you're there, just what a great environment to be in.
We better fucking be able to go back this fall.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping that. Mount Rushmore of players, that's a great one. I think
there are some fun players, man.
Coming back to 15, just like what a group of guys to come into, especially Drake, it's better than anyone in the running back room. You guys had Kanziri, LaShawn, a young Akram, Derek Mitchell, great guy. You're in there. I want to say by the end of 15, Brady had become a fullback.
For spring ball. So he wasn't in 15 season.
Okay.
But then when we came back after the season, he came into.
But he's in the building.
Oh, he's in the building.
So
he was knocking me out in practice.
That was such a great group, and not only running backs. I mean, Jordan Lomax is another guy who comes to mind. Just a great guy. On both sides of the ball, you just had some really good guys. I think Akram was such a goofball, funny guy to be around for sure. You're up there, of course, Drake.
Don't put him on there. Don't
appreciate
guy. Jacob Hillier's another guy comes to mind. Just a good guy,
dude. That's 2 weekends in a row we've talked about Hilly.
Yeah,
Hilly is
just a great guy.
He's gotten Mount Rushmore a couple times.
Yep.
Yeah. Even it's like I said before. Iowa's just you guys. You're a different breed of people, and they know that when they're recruiting, and they turn you from good people into great people. They're, in my time, such a good group of guys from 15 to 17. Everyone in that building. It's tough. It's tough to pick a Mount Rushmore.
It is. I feel like Ike has to be on a Mount Rushmore though. If
oh yeah,
like one of the greatest
great guy
human beings.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Your favorite games, Colin?
Okay, so favorite games. I think, I go back and forth between 2016 Michigan and 2017 Ohio State. I mean, as far as like it's got everything, right? It's night game. It's a blackout situation. It's a top team coming in who thinks they're all that, and they've heard, all this about tough to play in Kinnick, like whatever, we're an upper echelon program. And I get it. Like, they come in on paper, it's, maybe they should win. And you come in and it's the blackout. It's a night game. It's like, I would say Michigan was probably the loudest I've ever heard Kinnick. Besides, maybe the only thing that could rival that would be the moment Amani picked that ball off to start off that 2017 Ohio State game.
Wild.
Because that was loud. But I think 2016 as a game was just like the 2016 Michigan game. You just kind of felt that like something is going on. There was this kind of just this feeling about like, we're in this game, like we've got a shot. This is a good team we're playing, but like at any moment, I never would count you guys out. And that goes for any game, but like especially in that big game,
So Michigan is probably the number one on my list as well, Colin, because the emotional swing happened from the time that Germ fell down and the ball got picked off on the play action. When me and Siege, when I had my arm around Siege and we were walking back to the sideline, that was a moment where if somebody would have put a bullet in my head, I would have been content with it. I would just be like, fine, this is the lowest I've ever felt in my entire existence. Fuck it. Like, I'll die here. It's what I feel like anyways. And then 5 minutes in real time later, me and Brady Ross were humping each other on the sideline in celebration that we were about to win the football game.
I mean, people forget, we were down 10-0 early in that game. And it was, there were some, definitely, like you said, there were some kind of defining moments. That game had so many moments like that. You got that 4th down, Akram sneaks in for the touchdown. A play later, we fail on the 2-point, and it kind of like, man, like that would have made it 10-10.
That 2-point had the locker room in fucking shambles.
Yeah. And then you got I want to say, I mean, it's the kickoff, the opening kickoff in the second half. We forced a fumble, right?
That would be Ross.
And so then so many, the interception with like 2 minutes left, and we're kind of like, damn, like, that it felt in some ways, maybe that was the end.
There was no way we were winning that game when he picks that ball off.
I mean,
and then I'm pretty sure Josie crushes their quarterback.
Yep.
And
Parker.
No, it was Parker. It was Parker.
And all of a sudden, it's like, wait a second. They just went 3 and out, and now Desmond got his face mask pulled, and we're already in field goal range. What's going on?
There's just like that game is just – that's got to be a top game of all-time Iowa history. And to be a part of that was crazy. I mean, that's definitely – I mean, that's probably – for me, that's my number one, I got to say. Just talking about it has made it clear to me. But 2017 Ohio State, that was a game, I think, and I don't want to say this, like, don't take this the wrong way. We got up, and I was just like, in my mind, I'm thinking, we're going to win this game. Like, even though this is a great team, they could come back in an instant, when we got up, I think we were rolling, and I'm thinking, like, we're going to win this game. And so the field rush from a 2016 Michigan, when we kicked the field goal to win the game, the rushing of the field, the celebration of the win, it was a little different to me than like we're up 55-17. They score at the last second. It's kind of like that moment of no one cares. It was like, not no one cares that we won, but I'm saying like the final touchdown, no one's like happy in that situation. Because if you're an Ohio State fan, you're still down 20 plus. If you're an Iowa fan, you're like, I don't care. We just beat Ohio State by 20 plus. So, I mean, that was still an amazing game. Josh has a standout performance. Nate has a standout performance. Everyone has standout performance in that game. Great game, but just it's hard to rival, I think, that come from behind last second win like the Michigan game. So if I had to pick maybe like a top 2, that'd probably be those 2.
It's good too.
Definitely.
They're hard to beat for sure.
Yeah.
Anything else that you had written down that you wanted to make sure? My big question for you before we go is, as a manager, what do you wish? What's one thing or maybe a couple of things that come to mind that you wish like fans knew about the manager life, or that that just goes unseen by the managers?
This is a great question too, is something I had written down. Was one of the best days I think for us as guys, as managers, as a group, would be a Sunday. So, a lot of people don't think about, I guess, the best way to describe a manager, and I've struggled to do this for years, is just, if you've ever wondered, like, who does that when you're watching the game or thinking about practice, excluding video or any type of athletic training duties, it's us. Like, who puts the sticker on the helmet? How does the jersey get to the locker? Who sets up it's us. And so Sunday is a perfect example of that. If it's a home game, a few guys take a trip through the stadium and kind of like, we make sure everything's good in the game day locker room, ready for next week. Any equipment that we had brought over for game day comes back over. And then one of the cooler traditions that's also kind of a melancholy feeling would be getting the helmets ready. So Sunday, you get, all the game day helmets, we get them together and you kind of re-decal them, scrub them up, high shine them, just get them ready for next week. And I say melancholy because it takes forever, especially after a home game when more guys dress. As a joke, I can tell you, like, when you got those guys who maybe aren't playing in the game, but they're dressed and they get like a huge gash and a sticker, you just like, I just remember when we would laugh kind of at that, like, man, we got to redo this helmet. Like, whereas you have guys like Drake or
who fucks his helmet up so
whose
bad.
helmet is just obliterated, and you're like, I expect this every week, but like, I think
Hey,
to
my
answer your
helmet was
question,
fine every time. So you didn't spend much time on mine. Didn't have to.
Sunday was a great day to kind of like, coach talks about the 24-hour rule, and that was true for us too. Like whether it was a win or loss, we got to kind of process it on the Sunday and kind of just get the complex and the equipment ready for the next week. And that was just like, we had a good time. It was a long day, and by the end of the week we were ready to have a few minutes to just like do anything else. But that was a good day. Definitely was Sundays. And if there's anything that if a listener or anyone is, it was just a good experience and we were lucky to have such a good group of managers. We, like family, like you guys, I'm sure there were definitely moments when we would get pissed at each other, or like
I threw a trash can at Kluver.
we had those moments, and I had those moments with people. So there's definitely kind of this like family bond you create. And I'm so thankful to have shared that time with those guys, to get to be a part of the program. And a manager, it's kind of a selfless act. Our names are
not kind of, it's 100%.
And I think we were okay with that because, whether we're like me, I'm a guy from Illinois, but there's, I feel like I'd rival anybody for my love for the program. We get so invested in it. We love the game. We love the team, the staff. And for us, it was just about, being around football a little more. And there's just something about that I think we'll always, you guys too, we'll always hold on to those times and those memories, and the relationships we created. Definitely.
Well, Drake, I don't know if it can be better said than that.
Nope, that's a great way to end it, man.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry, I keep saying that. Just a great memory that I have that I wanted to share. I think you guys would think this is cool. So my first day as a manager, when I was actually hired, not like a tryout day, but like first day of summer camp, I walk in 2015, I'm figuratively shitting my pants. Like my dream has been realized to be a manager. I'm like, where do I even go? Does my card work yet? The whole deal.
Yeah.
First person I see walk in the building, of course. I'm like still shaking, like so excited. First person I see, Coach Ferentz, head coach. I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I going to say? I'm like nervous. I'm like, he's the king of small talk, as you guys know. It's like, how am I going to handle this? And I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. And it's a total testament to the program and definitely head coach. He knew my name before I met him. And he said, "Good morning, Colin. Like, how you doing?" And I just like,
Jesus Christ,
I'll never forget like what that, I'm kind of getting a little emotional, but I'll never forget kind of what that meant to me.
That makes me want to fucking cry. Why is KF a god, dude?
He is. He's
just a great guy. And that really exemplified it for me, just like, he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to, know his managers by name or by face or by either, and the fact that I walked in and before I even met him, he said, "Good morning, Colin, like, welcome to the team." I'll never forget that. And that was a cool moment that I thought you guys might like.
What a legend.
Great story to kind of, personify KF.
That's fucking insane. Well, we just spent an hour. I knew this was going to be a good one before you even hopped in here, Colin. This was going to drum up some memories. So that was, I think the fans are going to really enjoy this one. Thank you so much. First of all, Colin, for reaching out, because you're the one who kind of reached out and got this one in motion a while back. And we didn't shit on Kevin enough because he's fucking on vacation, Memorial Day weekend out at the lake.
If he couldn't have brought his iPad or laptop or even got on his cell phone knowing that we have a podcast.
Right. But you honestly, you filled in for him great, and the fans are going to love this one. And
show up anymore, and that we would just have a new co-host.
Right. Yeah. We appreciate everything you and the managers did, Colin, sincerely. I tried to tell you guys that while I was in the program, and I think you guys get that a lot because, again, great guys on the team. But thank you for everything you did. Thank you for coming on the podcast and giving your perspective.
It's a pleasure to be here. If you want me back, I'll have plenty of other stories sometime too. Or you could get another manager. I'm sure they'd be happy to do.
We could bring on Cherry Bomb, see what he had to say.
Yeah, he's got to be able to refute his name to Drake.
All right, Washed Up Walk-On fans, that's episode 120, I think.
Yep.
Of the Washed Up Walk-Ons podcast. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.